Exactly. And we've been here before many times, and that's how it works. It repeats and repeats and repeats until you get it, until it's loud enough and you're ready to say, okay, help me here. I don't want to do this anymore. And all it takes is be to be totally aware, to really look at what happened and what is happening, and is this how you want to continue to operate? So it is about engaging with and in. So when you engage with others, individuals, each individual you engage with, um, you will tune into them. You will the from where you're at in your symphony of frequency, sharing space with, tuning into where they are at. It will either inspire you, it will either cause you to expand if they're higher in frequency than you, or it will cause you to collapse in that sense, or to actually not collapse, no, compress. Will cause you to compress again into, like, compress yourself, focus yourself into old patterns, or into patterns that you have already frequentially, or where you are at in your symphony at that moment or at that time. Um, the timeline frequency that you're on, that they're not active, and but they're still lingering within you. They're still not completely seen, so that the potential is still there to fall into the patterns. They're just dormant, so to speak, at the moment, or latent at the moment. And so when you engage with a person that is on a certain frequency bandwidth, not bandwidth, sorry, frequency symphony, um, so and that symphony makes up a certain frequency, then, because when we talk about bandwidth, it's more talking about octaves and more talking about within dimensions. It is a dimensional bandwidth. So if you share a dimension within the dimension, I don't know what this is. Within the dimension, you can share space, you can physically engage with each other. That is what you're used to. At the same time, you can fluctuate hugely. You can have a huge fluctuation. Um, and the more there is a discrepancy in your frequency, the more difficult it will be to engage with that other. So, um, when you are engaging with another and tuning in, and they are in their symphony frequency denser than you are, more compressed than you are, then what happens is it activates the correlating frequencies to them within you, and now you're engaging on that level. And it doesn't feel good. At some point you realize that that doesn't feel good, because there is that much more percentage of you that is already streaming on a higher frequency. and then it feels like compression, and it feels like, like you're losing juice, like you're hanging dry here, and you're not in flow. It's like it starts to be like sand in the machinery. You feel like you're losing energy. It's no fun. It's like it's cumbersome. It's cumbersome, and still you do it because out of a habit, because you love the person, or the person you care about the person, and because you haven't really given it your full attention yet and your awareness, and because you still are in a unconscious program that believes serving that person and showing them your love, or loving them, means to engage with them and allow yourself to be compressed. That is at the same time, however, not honoring yourself. And when you do not honor yourself, when you allow yourself over and over to be compressed, unconsciously, then what you're doing is, it's like you're driving a car and you're pushing on the car is driving, um, because you're not even doing that. So the car is driving at a certain speed, and you're pushing the brake out of habit. And you're noticing, well, I mean, I want to keep going and I want to actually accelerate. I don't want to be pushing the brakes. And also when I push the brakes, heat dissipates, or the tires get worn off. Something seems to get lost. It's cumbersome. It's like pushing a stone up a hill or something like that. So what can shift this is to recognize the pattern that is being activated. One of the patterns here, one of the belief clusters in the inverted egoic mind, or you can just call it the separate egoic mind, separation-based egoic mind. When that is said, separation based, it is a separate identity from your soul, from the tree of life, from source code, from source light, that you are separate from that. It's a completely different existence and perception and feeling of being. You're not coming from your true being. You're coming from what I often refer to the avatar, that false self, that full identity with an image of yourself, and not with your true being. So to see the belief, for example, is to, okay, engaging in the old way that I used to engage, that now doesn't feel, it feels like I'm forcing myself to do this because I don't want to, I haven't even thought about it really yet, but the underlying is, well, if I don't, then they'll feel sad or left out or pushed back or not loved by me or something like that. And that is the illusion. That is just something that is taken for granted. It's like a belief, um, a way of being, which is a habit and a conditioning that is being taken for granted. It hasn't been really looked at. Is that true? Is that really true? Is that how it is? Because, okay, so this is what we're bringing in this morning, is that this is coming up, and this is getting louder because you're accelerating, you're going faster. And so this way of habitual interacting, that is compressing your overall symphony frequency, that is lowering it, is not of service, not of service to you and not of service to the other. And you are keeping yourself in that little box, and you are dishonoring yourself and continually allowing this to happen because you're not conscious aware of what is truly happening, and you're not consciously aware of what wants to happen here. What wants to happen here is alignment, which is then true service. You can then come into true service again. And alignment is, okay, hold on, this way of engaging is not, it's like shoes that they're too tight, and I still wear them, I still put them on in this engagement, you know, and then I walk in them and it's like, oh, this is really not comfortable. Okay. Okay, yeah. And all right, let's see here. Now, so now notice how it is you that activates that. It is you that is not, you know, even though it comes to you, it presents itself to you, and then you take the dance, you take the offer, you engage. At the same time, it is you that is reaching out. That is still somewhere within you. There is that energy that is also still holding on to that lower frequency, to that compressed frequency identity of yourself, and that where that soul stream is not aware of itself. You know, it's still engaging in that, even though I said before that it's latently and dormant, and then something shows up and it becomes activated. Yes, but that it still is dormant. It is calling for your attention to see it for what it truly is, so you can remember the truth within it. You can remember, okay, this is not in alignment with, you know, with me anymore, and this doesn't sound true for me anymore, and this is not who I want to be anymore, and this is not how I am of service. I'm not serving anyone this way. Beautiful. And what wants to happen, and how can I shift this pattern? How can I actually dissolve that pattern and bring that energy back to me that has been asleep within that pattern, within the egoic mind? Bring that energy back to me and into the natural flow, and so that when let's say the same trigger comes, or the same offer comes, and the same reaching out comes, I will then meet it from my true being. And there's a place that is insecure about that. And that is, of course, the place that it hasn't been seen yet and totally owned yet. That is insecure about meeting it from the true being, because its interpretation would be, oh, I have to be this way, I have to be this way, otherwise the other person, you know, is going to think I am selfish, I don't love them, I you know, and all of these things. Feel pushed back, feel unloved, yes, feel pushed back, feel unseen. Okay, yes, it's all of these things. And as I'm saying this, as I'm addressing it, and I sense that's boom, boom, boom. That's exactly what it is. Ooh. And it's exactly those feelings where the love can't flow, where you're just engaging high and dry from avatar to avatar, false self to false self, and no true connection is happening in the attempt to actually have true connection, you know? Yes. Both are coming from a place then still, when it's two avatars engaging, of lack, somewhere within them. So a hunger for love, looking for it in the other, acknowledgement. And love is like, you know, that is all encompassing. And within that is acknowledgement, because I don't acknowledge myself yet fully, so I need that from the outside. Any kind of insecurity, any kind of fear, and then in the end, it can also simply be put as energy, a lack of energy, and wanting that from the other. Also, it's insecurity and wanting to receive from the other some confirmation or consolation, these kind of things, because all of that is, we get that from ourselves, we get that from who we are, we get that from our being as soul, because the soul doesn't have that lack, because the soul is not within duality. This lack is only possible as an illusion within duality, within the separation from soul, within the supposed sense, that the sense isn't supposed, the supposed separation of soul, which is the sense of separation of soul from soul, and thereby from God, and thereby from all that is, and from the soul, from our source of life. And that is why these kind of interactions, um, you're noticing how they become increasingly unsatisfying. And there's something there that it's like you'd rather not even have them. But then there is, yeah, but I love this person, you know, and I want to be there for this person. Okay. So tune into that. I love this person and I want to be there for this person, because that's your truth. So tune into that. Now you can already see that it's on a completely different stream. That truth, I love this beloved, this other, I love this other, and I want to be there for this other. And I am there for this other. I am. And that's on a completely different frequential existence. And you can say always with that timeline also. Then this habitual engagement, this pattern of engaging that is actually seeking to feel and express this truth. And now let's go into it a little bit deeper here. Yes, okay. So oftentimes it is the case, like in this example, that let's say a beloved other comes to you for to pour their heart out, for maybe for advice, and maybe that you can give some insight, maybe for consolation. Mm-hmm. So let's say for consolation, if you're on the same frequency then, and you're offering consolation in the sense of this, on the level of the story, You're offering all kinds of, so there's a scenario, let's say a fear. It's running on fear. The program within the avatar of the beloved is running on fear, bringing it to you as, look, this is a problem. If you engage and in a way, okay, oh, there's something else coming through now. Okay. If you engage from the mind, from the same level of the problem, of course, it's not going to solve the actual root of that anxiety, because the anxiety is living within the separate self, the supposed separate self, the sense of separate self, only within that illusion, even though it doesn't look like an illusion. It's not, let's say it's not an illusion, but the separation is an illusion. And the truth about the matter is much, much deeper why this is happening, because it isn't happening because of what's going on the level of the story. And the egoic mind always wants to stay on the level of that story. And it can never be solved, because even when that, let's say this story would be solved, this knot would be untied, the anxiety is still there. It hasn't been addressed. It hasn't been faced. It hasn't been felt. It hasn't been met. And so it will find a different outlet. And so the next thing in line will happen on the, on stage. The next trigger will come, and it will come until there is presence with the actual sensation, feeling, emotion, and nervous system, and the physical body that is holding these agitated, low frequency, fear-based vibrations, because what it needs is space. They said love is space, because in order for this anxiety to truly dissipate, and anxiety comes from shock, trauma, everywhere where there has been a compression, a heavy compression, like some kind of a trauma. Sometimes the traumas can be subtle. They don't happen like a smack in the, like a fist in the face. They can weave themselves into the mind and the body like a slow festering foulness. It can be also that, but that is also trauma. It is also an energy that is feels itself, that is disconnected from source, that is in the reverse flow, that is in the reverse spin, that where we lose energy, that it believes in death, that believes in separation, that is in fear, and also then everything that comes from that, these dark, gloomy, just terrible feelings that make us not want to be present with them, because we feel awful when we have them, when we believe in them. So again, how to be of true service to the other. By honoring ourselves, we honor the other. And if it wouldn't be honoring the other, it wouldn't be true honoring of ourselves either. It would still be running on some kind of a distortion program. And there is still that, and I'm feeling that it's now that I'm addressing it, it's already It's already in back into the normal flow because it's dissipating. It's so relaxing now because now I'm in the truth. I'm flowing in the truth. I'm aligned. And that is very peaceful. Then what you are offering is space. You are offering that presence. It is that presence that you are asking of yourself, to be present with your own fears, with your own anxiety. And this is what you are offering the other when they come to you. The moment you engage on the level of the story, your frequency changes. And you are making concessions, and you are supporting that frequency. You are, as you are engaging, that's where you're putting your energy. And this worked for a long time to make these concessions, and it was the way, and it was a gentle transition into the truth, making these concessions. What is happening now is that as the acceleration of this ascending reality, ascending space-time vantage point that you're in, that the collective, that we're all in. It's not just certain individuals raising their frequency. It's not just the earth completely raising in frequency or rising in frequency. How could that be? It's an entire harmonic universe rising in frequency. That makes sense. That makes sense. And what that means also is that harmonic universe means a dimension. So when we say then universe, it is the universe from, so universe is infinite anyways, but now we're speaking from perspective, so we're speaking from time, space. And that, even though that's also infinite, we look from a perspective of frequency, and within a perspective of within a frequency bandwidth. And there are how many frequency bandwidths, let's not go into that. How many, and that means how many dimensions are there. And these dimensions, even though they are magnetically, there's a shift. It's like feels completely different from one dimension to another. There's definitely a completely different perception. And yeah, understanding, perception, so forth. The higher the frequency, the more broader the perspective and the understanding. The more energy you run through your vessel. And so the more space your nervous system needs. Otherwise it gets overwhelmed and you come into stress. Yes. And that is how these engagements in the old patterns feel. They feel stressful. Yeah. Okay, now you're coming out. Okay, let's move a little bit more into the sun. Okay, so if one harmonic universe is ascending, then what does that mean? It pulls up the one below, and the one that is in the highest kind of, this is just what is coming to me now. You know, yeah. I have no idea how this works, but this is just what I'm seeing and what is coming to me now. I'm just going to express that. So the highest would completely dissolve back into source. It's like a wave going through it all, and everything goes higher, higher, higher. And then it could also be that on one level, what I see is the dissolution, or the complete, the complete dissolution, back to source light. And then even the light, there's even the light that, and then there's the void, the potential of the light, where the light comes out of, it just, it appears, but then there's no beginning and there's no end, and it's always all connected in a spiral, spiraling up, spiraling down, ascension, descension. I know we're going a little off on a tangent here, but for some reason this is what's happening. And then there's also the expansion and the contraction. So it also means that, um, always something new is formed, something new is formed. So maybe new dimensions are formed as well. At the same time, oh, shall we go into that? At the same time, it is never born and it never dies. So it's like it always stays, that it is like always one. Oh my gosh. Okay, now okay, let's see. Within the world of existence, of light, of some kind of form, there is expansion and there is contraction. Yes. But pure consciousness is, even though there is from the vantage point of form, there is that experience of expansion and contraction. That is the accessing more and more and more greater consciousness, and then the falling asleep to the consciousness, that would be the contraction. But consciousness itself, right, there is no true in that. That is the so-called, void, or that is the non-form. There is no change within the non-form. Okay, there is no change. The change is only um, within the universe of existence, where something exists, some kind of form, and light is already something, is already some kind of form. Light, when there is light, that means there is also a perception of light, and that happens within form, where one experiences oneself. Experience happens in some kind of form. Okay, so we went all the way to, just to the principle. That's fine, that's fine. That happens sometimes. Because we're talking about quantum mechanics here. So, how to be of true service, and how to honor yourself. And just honor, because honoring yourself is honoring the other. Honoring the other is honoring yourself. So how to come into true honoring, into true service, and disengage yourself from the old patterning of that you feel doesn't feel aligned anymore. Because exactly, this is what I was going to say before, or that was coming through before, is because the acceleration is now so high. Exactly, this acceleration that is happening universally. Yeah, okay. At least it is happening to this degree of acceleration within this harmonic universe. So within this dimensional, existence of, universally within this. So this frequency bandwidth that is there's not just an existence within this frequency bandwidth on Earth, but throughout the universe. Yeah. And that is going up, and that is accelerating. And as you said before, you're going so fast, hitting the brakes at the same time, it becomes at some point, it would be, it would really derail you. It would derail you, and you're already feeling, oh, this doesn't feel good, this doesn't feel good, to hit the brakes, to move back into these old compressed patterns. It's not what wants to happen here. This is not feeling okay. We're repeating ourselves again. All right. um, so the seeing of this is the first step, obviously, to give this attention, to notice this, and then to really um, realize and to feel, okay, you don't want to do this anymore. So I want to now make no more concessions and do not want to engage in the old pattern. I want the old pattern to dissolve, and I want to be meeting others from my true being. And there is that anxiety and that fear that comes up. How am I going to do that without weirding them out, maybe. Okay, so tell me. Okay, there is no weirding out. There is no weirding out, because if you are in trust, if you are in presence, then the fear that will arise of being in presence, and whatever that looks like, let's just say it looks like silence. It comes across through silence. But fully aware, fully present, and fully in service. Then the reaction that it will trigger within you, that old pattern of fear. Oh, but we got to engage. We got to engage. Otherwise, there may be the other beloved may sense separation here, and I don't want that. When it's exactly, of course, the other way around, and that's what we're doing. We're from the inverted matrix egoic mind and system. We are turning it back around. We're bringing it back home, bringing it back into alignment. We're turning it around. It's exactly the opposite. So, see, we're already a step ahead when we talk about when we're engaging with another beloved. What comes before that is to not already engage in your consciousness, in your mind, to not engage in that way with them, to not imagine yourself in that way with them, to not imagine yourself interacting in those old ways. And to be aware when you have a movie going on in your head about somebody else's life and about somebody else's problems, issues that they bring into the shared field in order to receive some consolation, some guidance, some relaxation, some space, actually, to be able, for their nervous system, even though that is not what they are verbally expressing, that is what they are seeking. And that is why they come to you. because you have already made more space in your nervous system. And then you're not giving them that. And you're not allowing yourself to receive the gift that this interaction has to offer. And that's totally fine, because as you are interacting in the old unconscious ways that feel like the shoes are getting tighter and tighter and more uncomfortable, that's making you want to take those shoes off and have a look at them and, hey, do I still want to wear these? Who am I helping with? Who am I helping doing this? Okay. So everything has its time, everything has its place. You're not failing, in other words. You're not failing if you find yourself falling again into the old patterns. You're not failing. It is just about, okay, I'm noticing it now, and I know what to do, and that's what we're, working out here. So the first thing is when you think of them, don't think of them in the old ways. Don't think of, activating their issues and, how can I help there? How can I, what input could I give to help them? That's the codependent way. That's the way of lack. That's the way of the two avatars. That's the way of keeping the old conditioned mind, the egoic mind, the separation, the whole inverted matrix system alive. That's where you're still engaging in that. And we'll get to that, also later, how else we are engaging in that and on the outside. And that's a really, really big one. Okay, we'll get to that later. And at the same time as you're doing that, with this high acceleration of light quotient increasing, this feels like hitting the brakes, and it's getting hot and it's burning and so forth. Okay, so you're recognizing it. You're recognizing, am I dabbling in my mind in the old pattern? Am I dabbling in my mind in somebody else's life, in somebody else's problems, issues, business? Because that's the small self still seeking acknowledgement, wanting to help. That comes from the truth. That comes from the soul and from the heart, wanting to help. But then being asleep to your true self and finding that way through the conditioned mind and not truly, it's just it's like a seemingly helping. When you're offering what on the level of the story, you're offering any kind of advice is a seemingly helping. And it used to be like, okay, we're making concessions here. That's the thing, we don't make concessions. We don't want to make concessions anymore because it's going too fast. No more concessions. You're noticing that. It's about getting streamlined now. Streamlined means being fully in alignment. Okay, so it starts within the mind. Notice your own habits, how you're engaging already energetically in your mind in that old way with another beloved. Okay, is that duly noted? Duly noted. Wonderful, wonderful. And that feels really good. Yeah. It's a big shift. It's a big shift, and no one is beating up on you. There's no judgment on you. Only your egoic mind will try and beat up on you to get some juice out of it if you find yourself falling into that pattern again. But the thing is, it's like you're going at high speed. you're pressing the brakes and you're like, oh, I don't want to do that anymore. Oh, I don't want to do that's, and so the recognition of what you're doing is happening faster and faster, and so you can get back into alignment. We're just making this, bringing this to your attention. And we know, of course, your true intention. Your true intention is to come into full alignment, to embody in the most efficient, effective, gentle, beautiful, and accelerated way your light, your consciousness, to bring that through into the world, to experience yourself as healing your environment, as wherever you go, you bring this light. You uplift, but you uplift through inspiration. And that means it's not like you giving somebody else, it is your sound reverberating within them, where that sound is within them, and making that stronger. Just allowing for, being that mirror of that which is within them, just to facilitate their own recognition, and to experience your own recognition, and then to facilitate that recognition in others. Then to see how something that has been, let's say, sick, something that has been miserable, to see that blossom into its full potential, to see the beautiful, unique flower that it is. These are your heart's desires. And your heart's desires is to come, through experiencing your joy, how that grows when you share that joy with others, and how you facilitate an end of suffering, how you bring an end to suffering, how you facilitate the awakening to our true self, that is our light self, that is our soul self, that is the multidimensional soul, to that aspect, to that awakened degree embodied, that suffering is not a frequency that can hold itself anymore. And just to bring this back to life, bring this planet, this experience back from the deep, deep, darkest dungeons that it has been in for so long, to bring it back up into the light and experience the grace of God. That is your heart's song and your heart's desire. And in order to do this, as you now know that this is what you want, we are pointing out to you, making you aware of, or helping you to become aware of, that if you engage in the narrative on a frequency level perspective that is not in alignment with your soul stream, with your column of light, with that you're accessing that, and you're in that organic flow, and that's what you want to cultivate. That's where you want to anchor yourself and abide in more and more and more, until everything has come back into that flow of all your aspects that have been separate, that have felt separate from you. Yes. So that you can become streamlined and, and not hit the brakes anymore when you're going this fast. Exactly. What you want to experience, as you know, there is an acceleration like like what is that? Like when you see the toroidal field, when you see the torus, you can actually feel this sometimes within yourself there, because there are so many, you have a torus field, and then there are so many of these toroidal field. Every atom, every molecule, every whole onto itself is a torus. And so within that system of the torus, which makes up all matter, and then of course is comes together in different shapes and forms, which is all these geometrical shapes and forms. um, it is how consciousness clusters. And when a a higher order, before a higher order is traversed into a higher order, and then a reorganization occurs of the whole thing, of the whole onto itself, then within all the forms within that form have already come to a higher order. So first it happens pixel by pixel, as I say. So it's like little, on the smallest level, then that is going into the higher order. And then the next level of toruses, are going into the higher level. And each individual torus, it is an acceleration of spin. And what happens is, at a certain spin rate, and it has to also be within alignment. So it's not just the spin rate, it's also the rhythm. You see, you can't have a really high, if you have a really high spin rate and at the same time it's not in harmony. So so the rhythm is off. If you think of music, then it's like that annoying sound that is off gets louder, or that rhythm that is off, becomes more intense. And what then would happen is derailment, because at this speed, if you're not in alignment, you get derailed and you can't take the ride, so to speak. It's just, yeah. It's also like, if you have to think of it, streamlined so that it can fit through the portal. It's like it has the codes to fit through without, at this high spin rate, if a part of it would be like still sticking out, and it would let's say, ram against the, not wall, but like the side of a portal, or, a portal has a form. So it's not infinite. The portal is not infinite. So if a part of you doesn't fit through, it's like that, oops, there goes my arm, or something like that, you would get damaged. And that shows itself as a pain in the body, or as illness in the body. Yeah, exactly. So, and this is what is happening now, is in this getting streamlined. So we have to be aware of what kind of frequencies we engage in, and every single thought in our mind, every single movie, imagination that we're hanging into, that we're entertaining. That's what we're dialed into. That's what we're engaging in. That's where we are giving our energy into that. And that is then also what we're dialing into and receiving that frequency back to us. And then that frequency goes into, meets our own symphony, our own symphony. But we wouldn't be engaging if there wasn't that frequency still within us. We wouldn't be pulled, attracted to engage out of habit, out of conditioning, if a part of us wasn't still dialed into that radio station, so to speak. An aspect of us wasn't still there. So there are still clusters of belief that are on a certain frequency, that are a match to that frequency that we are engaging on the outside. Now, let's talk again about that narrative on the outside. It doesn't matter now what kind of narrative it is, what matters is that you notice and that you become aware of the perspective that you're engaging in.